your voice will change in pitch and you tend to say yes. So can you explain to everyone just about that? And then I just wanted to know just in general, like when it started and like, what that was like for you. Like, did you know what was happening or were you like, what's going on? Like all of that.
There's this understanding with when my voice changes and I over accentuate vowel sounds or yes comes out. And there's been a laugh lately as well, but there's a lot more joy going on for us. So even though that may not be registered by everybody yet, we're beginning. Humanity right now is beginning the ground laying of the vibration of joy being returned to it. So I like pick up on it because it's available, it's coming in again, and it's going to be expanding. So anyways, that's where the laugh is coming from lately as well, the laughter. But this I think really goes back, and I'm not positive if it was in that interview you're speaking of with Beautiful Boo Boo and Broader Lens Broadcast. Shout out to them for sure. But there's a space in my personal journey where I kept hearing in my being, remember who you are. And it was really interesting, even the way it was coming through. And I think it's important that I share that factor as well, because I think other people have been hearing this, right? Mm-hmm. So it was like this really deep, bellowy tone inside my being. Remember who you are. Like really cool. Like, and somebody met me years later, heard my story, and they said, oh my gosh, that sounds like Lion King. This was before that movie had come out, but the concept's there. Remember who you are. So my voice fluctuation, the energy rising, the yeses, all of this, it's part of who I am. And I decided to remember. Yes. And I decided to allow it. So now I am able to implement it. It can run through my form. Okay. So it's also energy changing very quickly, because when I start talking about certain subjects, yes, they could be subjects that are now form human, can vibrationally connect in with those concepts at a higher level than what we could before. So when my voice changes, it's usually a direct alignment with my higher mind, my higher heart, these spaces of the divine that we all are through unity, understanding of ourselves as the one within the many. It's that energy of that alignment changing very rapidly in my format. Yes. And being processed by me very, very rapidly, calibrated, if you will, so that I can continue to speak and I can continue to do what I do. So my breath might be like really quick all of a sudden, but then it's like, it just aligns me, how did I feel when it first started happening? When it first started happening, it was more subtle. So it was more of an accent change, and people would say, oh, what is this? All of a sudden you're from Europe or something? Because I'm in America. I'm in a US, a Southern United States type of accent. But the accent was the first thing to happen. But what I understood and felt in my personal take on it was just validation that my vibration was changing. That's all it was. Mm-hmm. So our tone, when we speak, it is a reflection of our inner vibration, whatever our consciousness is. And our consciousness is always changing and always shifting if we're allowing it to do so, because every single moment that we think a different thought or the same thought, but in a little different way, our vibration goes dink into an increment that it wasn't in before. And so, I picked up on it like that. Okay, this is a difference in my voice, the way that I'm pronouncing words. The breath was right away, really quick breath. And that also I knew was my body trying to process the energy. And I just allowed, because I had finally hit an alignment of understanding with myself in 2019 or so, where I really was ready to be free. But wanting freedom and being ready to live free are two very different things. Yes. It's very easy to want to be free, but then to implement the vibration of being free is an entirely different alignment. And I had moved into that space of myself. So it was like this is how I picture it, if this could be a visual for anybody listening. All right. Yes. If you picture your own body right now, whoever you are, wherever you are, just you, picture you. And there's nothing around you. You're just like in a void that's waiting to be the next space of you. Okay. And then there's these fears and apprehensions and hesitations, thoughts, belief structures, things you were told when you were 2 years old or 2 lifetimes ago. It doesn't matter. And those things, they're kind of like these energy ropes and not cords. We're not cutting cords, although that's fine if you want to do that, but you're ready for another space of you, I'll say. All are. But they're like these energy lines that are just kind of very loosely hanging on to your clothing. They're not even hanging onto your body. They're kind of just hanging onto your clothing. This is important. Somebody's really opening up with this visual. So now you see yourself in this void, ready to create whatever the next space of you is. And you see that you've got these spaces that they don't align with freedom. They align with judgment. They align with a slower flow of you. And there's nothing wrong with that. You can keep being them all you want. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a message in itself. What happened to me was I realized as these things were happening with my voice and my breath, and so my body would jerk a little and stuff, is I realized I was dropping. Every time I would allow, I would drop another old thought or old belief or old fear. And the more I dropped them, the more I opened up, like the flower could bloom, you know? And there were a lot of shifts and changes in my life, but yes, there were so many beautiful ones happening that the ones that maybe felt a little off at first, like a family member didn't want to follow me anymore on a social site or something because, you know, they didn't like my new belief structure or whatever. So it was not comfortable to walk through the space, but my vantage point from freedom and understanding myself as more, yes, that allowed me to navigate those feelings without getting caught up in them. So that's a very different type of navigation. And when you can just be the observer and you can acknowledge and then you can decide, you get to consciously choose what you do with what you're feeling. You're living in an entirely different alignment and it's freedom. So I allow the voice, I allow the jerks, I allow the breath, I allow all of it, because for me, it's just more and more confirmation of the ever expanding us, as I'm allowing the space.
This is why I'm asking about it. Just listening to you speak, it's like meditation, like when you're beginning and you catch your mind wandering off and then you bring yourself back and it wanders off, and like that's how it is hearing you speak.
Thank you.
It's awesome. Like it just, again, I was saying this in one of my other interviews, it shows us the science and the whimsical, like abstractness of everything, like the flip side to each coin. Like I just love it.
And that's beautiful. I love that you say that with the science and the flip side. And for me, it's and just other usages of words, but they're similar. For me, it's my work is really about bringing in the understanding of, yes, you're flesh. Yes, you're carnal. You have a biological makeup in a human format, but you're also spiritual. And so for a very long time, it's been this imbalance of very little or no spiritual, and the spiritual was even more limited, yes, in the understanding of the being. And so now we're bringing in this balance of, hold on to your divine biological genetic makeup. It's glorious. It's designed to be this ascension point of view. Your body is designed, yes, to assist that energy that's flooding in, to calibrate it, to ground it, and to expand it. That's ascension. That's awakening. And it's the spiritual space being given the opportunity to be heard.
I would love for you to explain this whole concept of how there are groups that have kind of utilized humanity, hijacked, however you want to call it, kept us in fear. How there is truth to that, but then there's like a big but with that in terms of like various timelines and people's beliefs, and then that brings in the collective, just all of it. Like I've heard you address this before and I love how you explain it.
It's a really big topic. It has many layers, but we can look at them as they're just allowing us to see them. So The overall understanding is that we are in human form right now, but we're eternal souls. So we're eternal consciousness having nows, And so we've had other lifetimes that would be human and possibly other spaces as well. I believe so because I know now through my learned experiences that I'm eons and eons and eons old. Yes, and I believe everybody I basically resonates comes into this area of connection. You are as well, So just for a second, take that into consideration when you're listening to what we're talking about. To be eons and eons and eons old, and then we're going to talk about a blip. Right. If you think about it in the understanding of eons, we're going to talk about a blip. And people say, oh, well, that's maybe not nice to say because that could offend somebody because, the Holocaust was a horrible space, and it is. But if you're understanding how vast you are as an eternal being and you're having nows, and then you start looking at those nows and you start being able to observe those nows for what are those nows beyond what you've already labeled them. So you label them as a atrocity. You label them as, yes, a trauma. And they are. That is an available space of energy that is there and it's real. I'm not discounting that at all. But then you also have the opportunity to say that that space pushed humanity. Yes. In a way that it needed to be pushed to be able to be where it is now, because it had to see that side of itself in order to decide if it was going to raise its vibration, if it was going to raise its understanding of the sanctity of life in all forms, in all spaces. So, and then you even have this whole space where you get to look at the people that were on both sides of it, which is really hard. And some people hate that, they're not ready to hear that conversation. That's okay. Just be the space you're in at the now and just meet yourself right there and allow it, But if you're thinking of the hijacked planet even, and you're thinking of that storyline, which it's available. It's a reality line that's absolutely 100% running, vibrating, and existing. Are there beings on the planet that are here for a nefarious reason? Yes. Are there less now than before? Yes. Why? Because the light showed up at a greater level. Why? Because humanity moved its vibrational understanding of itself to a point of existence in which the light could come. You cannot experience any space, unless you have some type of resonance for that space to dock. And so we, as a collective of humans, moved into an understanding of ourselves vibrationally, energetically through our belief structures where the more light could come. And then you have this space coming in. So now you have this alignment that now we are able to understand that the darkness, that even though it looks darker now, and I understand that. I'm not watching the news as much because personally, I don't feel like that's the most accurate view of the world. But I do I listen to podcasts and I go on to different social sites and I catch everyday people sharing what's going on in their part of the world. Yeah. And I see what's going on. And for me, this is so many layers of this hijacked planet. There's so many layers of understanding humanity is being given the opportunity to see itself. Yes, humanity has to see what it has done, what it is doing, and decide, is that the space it will continue to flow as, or will it move? Will it shift? Will it change? And so when you're in a space like this, that we're in right now, yes, an awakening space, you're going to see more of who you really are as a collective and as an individual and everywhere in between, because those energies have to be given acknowledgement and then processed through what you're going to do with them. So the hijacked space of the planet concept and understanding, it's a reality. This is the part some people don't really like, but it exists and it's important to allow ourselves to entertain it. What does that mean? It means think about it for a second. You don't have to believe it, but just think about it for a second. But the beings that hijacked the planet, yes, play a role, just like we spoke of with the Holocaust. They play a role that has to be played in order for that level of change to be available.
Yes.
If that isn't happening, then there can be change, but it's never going to be at that magnitude. So it's a very empowering understanding because it's available in these big collective spaces, which are huge. They shift everything, absolutely. But then you can hone that down into your everyday life. And you can realize that when you have a bad day or a horrible day or something goes off track that you really, really, really believe with everything in you should be this way and it's not, you have the opportunity to look at that with observation, not caught up in it, but standing back from it with your eternalness. And you can say to yourself, okay, what is the message here? And I know I'm going in the direction I'm supposed to go, even though it looks like it went wrong.
Mm.
Because if you can say that, which it's your truth, but I understand some people don't believe it yet, and that's okay. That's the part of expansion and spiritual awakening we're going through right now. Mm. But we're always safe. I know, weird, right? How can you be if there's natural disasters and wars and all this stuff? We're always safe. We're always loved. Mm. We're always surrounded by that love. In order to understand that space of ourselves, that always safe, always loved, surrounded by higher dimensional beings of light, we have to begin to connect in with it. We have to begin to think about it. We have to begin to allow it to some degree in our thought processes and our imagination. It cannot dock. It cannot show up. It cannot land. It cannot anchor, whatever word you want to put on it. Yes, unless it has a resonance. It has to have a space being given to it. People say this to me all the time. How can I hear my team of light? How can I be activated to talk to my angels or my past loved ones, or, you know, these spaces of absolute beauty? Definitely. They want to have them turned on. Most people that want to have them turned on and aren't feeling the connection is most of the time, and this isn't judgment, this is just information. Okay, it doesn't have to make anybody feel like they're, you know, not as good as they should be. That's not what it's being said for. It's being said so that there's information available to open the door. But most of the time, it's because the person thinks they can't hear them. Mm. And you say, well, that's dumb. I know I can't hear them. I'm not hearing them. So what are you saying, lady? You're not making any sense. Right. But the thing is, universe, universe and source, God, whatever word you're using, does not work with you in a co-creative manner in the sense that we think it does. Okay. Many are coming around to this, but this is the ascension process of humanity. You want to hear your team of light more. You want to understand you more. You want to have the higher mind, higher heart, higher self flow through your being. Universe will pick up on the vibration of that being present in you when you are running it. And then your reflection outside world will match it. Yes. So it's not about feeling it, seeing it, and experiencing it when you get there. Right. It's about coming from that space of you now that already is. Yes. People say, oh, well, then I'm lying. This lady telling me to be delusional. No, I'm not. I'm telling you to direct your energy. Yes. I'm telling you how powerful you are. You decide what you focus on, and whatever you place your focus on, it's going to expand. Because that's how energy works. That's the science side of it. Yes. And then the spiritual side of it is knowing you're that sovereign creator who can run that scientific ability.
Yes. And so, I love this. Something I've heard you explain as well is so what, like, if people are just starting off and they're like, okay, let's give this a whirl and let's start to focus on this or whatever. And like, let's say they're saying mantras in the morning. I am healthy. I am whatever. And they do it for 2 days and they're like, well, where is it? And I've heard you explain, and this makes so much sense. And I think it's encouraging for especially what we're seeing play out right now in the world, that um it can feel like something isn't working, or like we're going backwards or whatever, when really there's all these things that we've been thinking and manifesting and creating for so long, and we're seeing that still play out and crumble and do what it needs to do. Just like bringing in the new energy is the same way. It won't just happen overnight. It's the flow of it all.
Mhm.
It's the movement of it all.
Yeah, absolutely. I always ask people, how long have you been running the old program?
Yeah.
2 days, two
Yeah.
weeks, 2 years? Most of them say 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, 60 years. I say, okay, now think about that for 1 minute, please. All
Yes.
right. And then also, you're allowing the understanding of when you're saying whatever your thing is, I am wealthy. Are you, be mindful, are you saying it from wanting to be wealthy? Or
Mm,
are you saying it from feeling I am wealthy?
mm,
Yes, they're two different vibrations. And the thing is universe will not listen to your words. It will read the vibration of your words.
mm, mm,
And so if universe picks up on you're not, you don't really feel wealthy, but you want wealth, and
mm,
it's just continual experiences of want wealth.
mm,
So it's not to judge the person really, because I lived this and I implemented this and I absolutely 100% life proven, have a life that proves what I say. So I went from probably about $650,000 worth of debt, uh, poor health in certain ways. I had panic attacks, blah, blah, blah.
mm,
Uh, and I started over. Ha! I
mm,
completely started over I started analyzing, what do I say a lot? Let me pay attention to what I'm doing. What do I think about the most all day? I love that you use the word science because it's one of my phrases. I say, I am my own scientific experiment. Pay attention. When I change one thing, it's inevitable something on the outer world shifts, And yeah, sometimes it takes a different amount of time, but you start getting good at it and
yeah.
you start having more fun with it.
Yes.
And then it starts to move faster. And
Mm,
so like I work with people and I teach people this right now. I actually have a class space coming up in December, and it's called Engaging Your Power. And so it touches on all this because I've worked with people for many, many years and all over the world. So these are all different backgrounds, men, women, all different cultures. And I've realized that through the years, the availability of the individual human is more present.
mm,
The shedding of those, old program belief structures, it's gotten to a point where they're starting to hear and they're
mm,
starting to see faster.
yes.
So anyone who says, yeah, I read The Secret. Yeah, I did a vision board.
Mm,
Yeah, I had this, watch this movie, what the bleep, whatever.
mm,
And they're like, my life still looks the same. Well, take a deep breath and allow yourself to hold the thought of, I'm going to reset this whole thing. I'm going to reset me, and I'm going to reset this whole space I understand as life. Hold that intention, hold that thought. And as you exhale that breath, move like visual, your everyday actions, how you interact with yourself, your own thoughts, and others around you. Move in a new way.
mm,
New world cannot show up if you're the old you've always been. Ha!
mm,
So you've got to do it different if you want to have a difference. And these affirmations are phenomenal. I said them for years, and I have a life now where I paid off my home. I bought 15 acres of land. Um, I paid off my car. I don't
mm.
have credit card debt. And I mean, it's not just finances, but every single part of us is a reflection
Uh,
of the programs we're running.
yes.
And it doesn't mean anybody's wrong or broken. If
Mm,
you're in debt or you hate your job, I was there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hated my job. I
Mm.
we get by kind of thing, hoping you had the money to make the payment for whatever you were paying the next Friday, every Friday. What do we got to pay? What do we got to pay? What do we got to pay? And I don't live there anymore.
Mm.
But that's how powerful we are. And
Yes.
that's part of ascension. There's this
Yeah.
glorious divine spiritual side of it. And then there's these everyday markers that you can start seeing showing up and dissolving and alchemizing in your life because you changed.
I would love to kind of just piggyback off that. I want to talk a little bit more about like identity and
Mhm.
all of that because it's just so identity is so funny because it's like it that is separation at its finest.
Well, the vibration of separation, I teach in one of my courses, Higher Mind, Higher Heart course. That's an actual alignment humanity is healing.
Mm.
And when you heal the vibration of separation, because it's really cool when you start looking at every single emotion as this vibrational alignment potential,
Yeah.
and and then becomes the vibrational alignment of the reality, whatever
Mhm.
you continue to tap into. And so separation has been amplified in humanity for sure. But right now, the reason why it seems like it's bigger than ever, I mean, because we really have a lot of different separating points, but
Mm.
it's because there's more light present. So we always have that beautiful go to backup thought available. When you start realizing, um, yes, you could say how bad it is, or how big it is, or how daunting it is, how big the vibration of separation is, presence wise in humanity. It's only able to be seen at that level of itself
Mm.
because of the amount of light that is available and consciousness that is running through a very large space of the collective.
Mm.
So that's a balance point, just having that thought. And then knowing that when you're allowing the separation of vibration to be healed, really, that's what we're doing with it. Those of us who are engaging that understanding, we're healing it. What does that mean? We're giving it love to remember itself as one. So I'm everybody and everybody's me. Absolutely. It's what it is. But here's the really cool thing about being human. We're walking ourselves into the remembrance of we are one, and we are the one within the many. But then, haha, and this is the really beautiful kicker, then we have to, we get to move back into that which we never left, space of experience, and we get to be it as the one. So it's a really beautiful space, but
Mm.
there is a little wobble there that a lot of people will feel sometimes because they will say, well, if we're one, we should all agree. No, that's not unity consciousness.
Right. Right.
Being one and unity consciousness means it is the one within the many, which means all of those space points, all of those variations or increments of consciousness are all their own increment, as they are also the one increment. So it's in a very expansive space of being, and it's something that continues to expand the more we just allow it. So we think about it, we talk about it, we have spaces like this about it. Um, I envision this stuff all the time. People say, "How do you continue to expand? Who are you reading? Who are you watching?" Blah 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 blah. I go and I just like I picture everything. I say, so if I am one within many, what does that look like to me?
Mm.
And I envision it, I imagine it, and that changes, as
Mm.
I change. Uh, I look at everything different though. Very big part of opening up for me, and this may be valuable to someone listening, is tree energy is very helpful.
Mm.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
connecting with the trees, thinking about them,
Yes.
talking to them. And people say, oh, you're
Yes.
crazy. They're going to lock you up or something. Well, be mindful how you talk to them. Maybe don't go out into a full blown loud volume, in front of people, um, but make good choices and just know that they are consciousness. They are the one within the tree. And, the one within the mycelium under the earth, and the one within the sky and the cloud and the wind. And You know, we could sing the song from Pocahontas if we wanted to. I don't know, somebody might know that one, Paint with All the Colors of the Wind. And that's a lovely depiction of all the spaces that the spirit of the one is in, you know. But it's part of this experience as being human. And the reason why I bring in trees is because they assist with this space of you remembering who you are. They assist with me, they assist with us. Why? Because they're very interconnected with humans. Yes. Even with the way in which they expel and you know, take in, and we expel and take in, and it's all reciprocal of one another, if I'm using the word correctly, but we have to have them and they need us. So there's this entire interconnectedness with the earth's energy. And when you are going through these spaces of listening to these types of podcasts and watching these types of videos and connecting in with these types of understandings, you are changing the vibrational flow of your own being inside your human body. Now, in order to continue to do that and not like really blow up or like, you know, blow a fuse, whatever word you want to use, because honestly, that's what happens. People get severe anxiety or depression, or they have other types of issues in their life. Part of what it is they're not grounding their consciousness. They're not grounding their energy in their form. People say, oh yeah, so what? You want me to walk around the yard barefoot? That is one way of grounding, and it's incredibly powerful and beautiful. But there's another part to grounding where you're consciously running, yes, your root lines into the new earth through your intention of envisioning, imagining, and speaking it over yourself. So we do this in the work I do of Acasma Quantum Energy as well. And one of the biggest things that happened for me prior to bringing this work to the world was I had an automatic handwriting experience. You know, I woke up very early in the morning and it was like, get a pen and paper. I'd never done it before. I was like, what? And I did it, and it's in my book. So this message, I took a picture of it. They basically said, these beautiful higher dimensional beings that we all work with, they said that my work holds grounding frequencies to help people remember who they are and anchor their higher consciousness in their now human life and be, you know, healthy with it, right? Which I think is what you're saying as well. When you say, I say, hello, Holy One. Yes. And you have that vantage point click in, it's a part of that grounding. It's in my voice, it's in the work I do, and it's most likely also why my voice changes, because they're frequencies.
Yes.
And I'm this instrument being utilized to assist the human form in that grounding. So the grounding is really important. Anybody, if you don't have trees around you, you live in the city, that's okay. Here's what you do. You close your eyes. You don't even need a video. It's fine. You can go find one if you want on YouTube. They have plenty. But you can close your eyes and you can just think about trees. What you think about, you start connecting with.
Yes.
All right. So you can think about them. You can talk to them with your mind, with your heart. You can talk with your mouth if you want. But yes, the tree energy is really helpful. We're like walking trees. That's how I see humans. We're like walking trees.
Yes.
We have root lines that come out of our feet and we go around doing our thing, but we're like a walking tree. So
yes, I love that you brought up trees. Ever since I was little, like the sky, tree, like everything has always just kind of like just put me in a place of awe. But now it's like instead of just being in all of them, now I like understand them. And yeah, I have had like full-blown conversations. This is going to sound nuts to people, but I hear you through and through. I mean, like I have a relationship with them now. I mean, we have a relationship with everything. So that makes sense. But yes, there's something about trees in particular.
I can remember when it really anchored in that I had aligned it and I wasn't really trying to figure things out anymore. I was just really present, showing up, and I really felt like whole. I really felt whole, and I really felt here, and I really felt like, I don't know, all the things I teach, they were just embedded, you know. And it's people, I remember one time I mentioned it somewhere, so somebody might have already heard this, but I went to see my daughter at work one day, and I left. I visited for a few minutes with her and her boss, and then I left. And my daughter came home that night, and she said, "Oh, my boss thought you were so cool. You're such a different person, and they wanted to know if you're always that way."
Mhm.
And I just thought it was really cool that my daughter was able to say, "Yep, that's who she is."
Mm.
And I just that was when it really anchored for me that I had given up the hesitation. I
Mm.
had given up the background fear of someone thinking I was weird or somebody not understanding me or not agreeing with me. Um, and I just was living purely from my heart,
Mm.
and allowing myself. I was allowing my flow. And so it's really beautiful because I receive like your words here with such gratitude and respect for you. So thank you for sharing them. And people that will email me and they don't know me and I've
Mm.
never met them, but they see a video or they show up on something I'm holding and they're marveled at how real I am. Like
Mm.
like it's not a show, it's not fake, it's not made up. And I don't hit end meeting and then go to be something else, you know.
Yeah.
I even have to work on that a little bit for my family's sake because I've been in public with them at like a restaurant or something, you know? And I always do this to people after I order food. I always say thank you like that, you know. And my kids in the beginning they were like, "Who what is this now? Like why are we bowing to people at, you know, like the Mexican restaurant or something?" And I'm like, "I don't know, I just feel reverence to all beings, you know?" And so the kids they laugh about it, but then, you know, the yes came in. Yes, the big yes. And yeah. So sometimes it will come out when I'll be in public, you know. And my children, they're 20 now, 21 and 25 or 6. So their eyes just get real big, you know. Because they don't know for sure. Does this mean we're going in a direction where a bunch of, you know, the mom's voice is going to change and the breath is, but they know it's possible because I will be who I am.
Yeah.
But
People
it's really
ask you about it a lot? Or do they just like let it ride? Or because I mean I've never I obviously the way I the very first podcast I listened to with you on it was Boo Boos, and it was truly like the first thing you brought up.
yes.
And I feel like it would like I feel like I would just naturally think like, oh, it's like a tick, or you know, I would
I
think
know.
about it on a very like, you know what I mean?
No,
And
I know.
like leave it at that. And I like, is that as like has anyone brought it up to you? Like,
Oh,
it,
absolutely. I've had people, I was interviewed, I won't, let's just back it up a teeny bit. Okay. I've had some people actually say, "Do you have spiritual Tourette's?" You know? So, and I'm all right. I'm all right. But I don't want to disrespect the connection of the beings that I do understand are working with us and working with me. So they're all right. They don't get in their heads about all of this. That's a human space of
yeah,
connection.
yeah.
So, but I understand that the response offers an understanding moment. So I'm
Mm.
very mindful of the response coming from a space of love and compassion, which is very important. But my kids know because they've seen the whole unfolding. You know, we're very close. We're very, very close. And uh they have watched the journey and they know the journey from panic attack,
Mm.
mom's angry, mom's, you know, unhappy, we have to go stay at our aunt's house because mom needs a break for a day. So they know the space of it, where it started to become the world falls apart so that you can decide to rise, you know.
Mm.
And in the moment you're not really aware of that yet, so you're just kind of like, what's going on? My life is falling apart, you know. And it can be scary and difficult to navigate at times, but them seeing that and then seeing where I am now, and they see the journey, so they have like learned it and they've implemented in their own lives, and they have very, very beautiful lives, and they're very successful and they're very healthy. But that was the example being given to them and them deciding to take it, you know.
Mm.
And my one daughter, she said to me one time, "You are proof that people can change." And I
Mm.
thought that's a really powerful thing to have your child tell you, you know.
Yeah.
And so I really value my relationship with my children and my husband. He's super supportive and he believes in me 100%, even though this is not his world. Like he is like an everyday regular football watching,
Interesting.
yeah. So, but he helps me a
Wow.
lot in the work I do. He
Mhm.
does we do Los Angeles Conscious Life Expo. We did this year in 24 was our first year.
Mhm.
We're going back in 25. He
Awesome.
was the one he was like, we're going back. We're going to do 25. I'm like, oh, we
Oh,
are, but he
wow.
loved it. And, I have destination events he helps me with. He shows up on at the space and helps. So, you
And you
know,
guys climb in Sedona, right? Every year.
yes, yes, we just did
Wow.
Sedona.
Wow.
Yeah. So he helps me get all the people up the mountains.
Wow.
But then he goes and stands on the sidelines and I do my chanting and my toning and my singing and my drumming and I speak languages of light and the people are there that I'm working with that have come to the event and but
Mm,
that just I think speaks volumes about because sometimes you'll hear people get in their own way and say, well, if my husband was more open, I could be. Or
mm,
if my kid was, I could be. Or if I had this, I could be.
Interesting.
It's you, it's you, it's you. And what
Yes.
is really empowering is to own your own power and implement
Yes.
from the love and the space that you're walking in. And then everything around you will start resetting itself accordingly.
Mm,
I lived with my daughter for about 2 years while we were building our homes. I just moved 2 weeks ago into this house. So for 2 years now, I've been living with my older daughter and her husband and their two dogs. And I had a little area in one room that I could set up with this and do my work because I'm on Zoom all the time and I hold group events every weekend practically. I can't miss those spaces for 2 whole years. I got to keep moving, right? But I didn't get in my head about it and say, well, gonna have to shut things down for a while because, I don't have the room. I don't have a designated space. I just took over a space that belonged to everybody and I owned it for 1 to 2 hours whenever I needed to. And I gave them notice, I'm going to be on a call. Please don't walk through the room.
yeah.
but but really somebody's hearing this and they're thinking, she's right. They're
Yes.
right. They're
Yes.
right. I need to just trust myself. I need to
Yes.
allow myself and I need to
Yes.
move into that space of implementation.
This is awesome. As you were speaking, I just got this image of your home and the individuals in it with various different beliefs,
Very
thoughts,
different.
feelings, and it's cohesively working. And then that expanding out and out and out and out around the world. People that are skeptical about this, they bring up often like they'll laugh and they'll be like, oh, like people think we're going to like there's this new earth like sitting right next to us that we're gonna like jump to, or like it's
Mhm.
very like they'll kind of mock because they're thinking of it in like a very like it's like another place when really
Mhm.
this is it's a what you're talking about is such a good example of
Yes.
exactly that.
Yes, yes. Well, there's a Bible verse that goes with this very lovely, and it is, you can be in the world, but you're not of it. So you are whatever your vibration is. Yes. And so even in that space with many different reality lines really being pulsed,
Yes.
connected into, there are most similarities, absolutely. There's resonating points, absolutely. But no, you are whatever your individual, yeah, vibrational understanding is. That's the reality line that you're tapping into and creating as. And that whole New Earth thing, I've done a lot of videos on that as well. That's a really good topic. That could be an hour in itself. But
Yes.
I like to remember when we're talking about the New Earth that it is all vibrational
Mm.
and that I believe I and you and all those who resonate, who this makes sense to. And if it doesn't make sense to you, it doesn't mean you're not on a good earth. You're just on a different earth. That's
Right.
all right.
Right.
There's lots of different vibrational alignments. Say, oh, that's craziness. No, it's actually science-ness.
Mm.
I love to make up new words.
Right.
But,
We need them.
it's Yes, it makes the mind think about it for two
Yeah.
more seconds because it says,
Yeah.
What did she just say?"
Yeah.
But it is, it's science. It's the understanding of energy, vibration, frequency, quantum, multidimensional spaces of existence. Um, we're so vast.
Mm.
We are so
So
vast.
fast.
And we are having a now experiential focal point as this particular vessel in space.
Mm.
And I love when the lighting does this. It's so beautiful.
Yes.
But we're still that vastness having a now. We're
Yeah.
just, you know. So my work is to help people remember that vastness, but then also implement it in the nowness so the nowness can be glorious. So
Yes. I love it. Whether it's like your favorite moment or like the most fascinating thing you found or whatever, like it's just something that really stands out
mm.
for you in a really like fun or interesting way from this lifetime, from this experience, this current.
Yes. Well, there are many, but there is one that I really love. And it was, I've talked about it before. It was so the first time I had light language, I called it speaking in tongues. It was in the 90s. And I think I was in my early 20s, something like that, mid 20s. But that was when I was still in the Christian church. So we called it speaking in tongues. But so I hadn't had it happen for a very long time. And I was in, I guess, my mid 40s, late 40s, maybe. And yeah. And that would be one of my favorite spaces. So I hadn't had that happen for about 20 years. And I was looking at a crystal. I was sitting in my sister's dining room by myself. My kids were in the other room with my sister. And I was looking at this crystal, just basically probably a clear quartz, but lovely they are. I was looking at it and I got really emotional.
Mm.
And I got really like this sensation of massive amount of love. Nothing could ever harm you. You were super safe. You were just so loved. Like the surrounding of that love was just pouring over me as I'm just looking at this stone. And then the languages started flooding out of my mouth again. And I hadn't had it happen in over 20 years, probably. So I remember sobbing and speaking these languages. And I did have my mind think, oh, my kids, I don't want my kids to be fearful.
Mm.
Thinking, what's wrong with mom? Because this world I am now that they're quite used to, it hadn't happened yet. Right. So it was more so of a different world then. But another good analogy of why the new earth is what the new earth is. Please remember that as you're hearing this right here. So that world was a different world.
Mm.
And I was allowing. But that night, I loved that experience so much. But then that night, I went out of body and I met a being and we had the most glorious conversation.
Mm.
They were just giving me all these answers. I wasn't asking them, but they were just saying one thing after another. And I realized it took me a minute to be like, wait, what? And I realized they were giving me every answer to every question I had ever had.
Mm.
And it
Mm.
was just pouring out. And I could only pick up on a couple of them when I came out of the experience to where I actually like wrote it down. But it wasn't really about that. It was an energy conveyance. It was an opening of myself that I had hit a alignment with where it could port, it could dock, it could land,
Yes.
So in that experience, that would probably be one of my top experiences spiritually. We moved through dimensions. So I actually read, felt, sensed, moving from third to fourth, moving through the
Yes.
veil, moving through all these different points. And like you register sound differently and you understand, oh, okay, we're passing through this space of us, And I mean, to not be on a drug, I wasn't on a mushroom, I wasn't on a plant, I wasn't on an energy session. I had that space with a stone. And then I went home and that night I had that space with this being. And yeah, that was probably one of my favorites. And there's so many. And that would be spiritual, of course. The birth of my children would be lifetime favorites as well. I had two births, and then I actually helped my daughter give birth to her daughter in just a few months ago. She
Incredible.
we didn't make it to the hospital, so the baby was born in the
Wow.
house, and it wasn't planned that way. So that was an incredible experience, and everybody did really well. So those are top on my list as well. I
Awesome.
have to list those as well.
Congratulations. That's
But
pretty cool.
that's another really great example of balancing the carnal, the flesh, with the
Yeah.
spirit. So
Yeah.
when you asked me what my favorite things were, I was able to give you an incredible spiritual moment. And then I also have these incredibly beautiful flesh moments, you
Yes.
know?
Yeah.
And I think that's what humans are learning to do for this new earth vibration that we're being,
Yes.
is to embrace their humanness. See, for a long time, everybody wanted to get out of Dodge. You know, a
Mm.
lot of the people that ride in these circles and in this type of speech and understanding, they just want to get out of, they don't want to be here. They're like, I can't do
Yeah.
Earth anymore.
Yeah.
I'm a star seed. I'm a this, I'm a that. I got to get out of here. No, you came to be here. We
Mm.
need you here. You have a purpose here. You're
Yes.
divine. You're powerful. And you're finding your power,
Yes.
finding your divine flow.
Yes.
Yes. And you're allowing it. And that is part of the assistance of ascension. Yes. So, yeah. So,
Mhm.
yeah, all of that is available to us at an even greater level now.
I would love for you to close this out however you would like to. Any advice or whatever you think is best for the audience to hear right now. That would be great.
All right. If you would just allow yourself to think for a moment, use your brain, and remember who you are by allowing your thought of it. Yes, think of what you are and who you are. You are eternal, and you're having a now. Now, I will allow the languages, and they are available for you to understand, yes, and receive in your own way. There is no direct interpretation, yes, but there is the availability of whatever is optimal for you. So if you allow, you're listening, you're watching, however this is being received, if you just allow your breath for one moment, please, breathe nice and slow, nice and deep. Yes, just allow the space, just this space, just right now. Just allow. Yashane yana oakea, yana sawatea, yana noa okuane, yana kea. Asaoaye, asaoaye, yana tawa kea. Asaokoa, asaokoa, asaokoa. Yes, breathe, please. Breathe. Yes. You are loved. You are safe. You are surrounded by that love. Yes. Trust yourself. Yes. And allow your flow. Yes. Blessings upon you, Holy One.
I've heard you bring up how in 2019, that's when you heard the light is here.
Mm-hmm.
And you even mentioned hindsight 2020. And I just, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's so funny. It's like, how long have we been saying hindsight's 2020?
I know.
Look at
I
what happened
know.
in 2020.
Yes.
Like, you can't make this stuff up. Like, well, apparently we can.